morning, everyone. I'm so excited to see everyone here on this wonderful, beautiful day. I know you all have a lot of presentations that you're going to be listening to today, so I'm going to try to be short and brief, but I just want to welcome everyone here to the meeting today, and I hope that we're able to make some progress as we go through the slides today to talk about rural education. Today, and as you all might know, my name is Donique Washington. All of you know me. Today we're going to be talking about focusing on student achievement, and we're going to be talking about we want to highlight the strengths of rural schools. Thing that we're going to do is we're going to give a little background about living in a rural area. What does it mean to live in a rural area? And then we're going to talk about how living in a rural area affects affects a person's academic success, academic achievement. Of course, students who live in urban areas have a few more different opportunities than students living in rural areas. So we're going to talk about those differences. And then I want to talk about how we can capitalize on the strengths of rural school districts. You know, everyone talks about how there's always something lacking in the rural areas. Well, there are some good things. There are a lot of good things about rural school districts, rural communities, and we're going to talk about that. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about some strategies that we can implement that can increase our student success rate, that can increase our students' academic achievements. Some of those strategies are going to be promoting school meal programs in rural school districts. Another thing is going to be increasing student participation in career technical educational programs. And then lastly, we're going to talk about recruiting qualified teachers in rural school districts. And then afterwards, we really just want to sit down and we're going to brainstorm about how all of these things combine and promote rural education. So I want everyone to sit back, put your thinking caps on, and let's get ready to retain this awesome information. Now, I have a little icebreaker for everyone, kind of just loosen everyone up so everyone kind of can relax, and then it kind of teach a lesson on rural education. So I know it's getting close to lunchtime, so don't eat these yet. But I have 2 cupcakes sitting in front of everyone. It's 2 red velvet cupcakes. Each person should have 2 red velvet cupcakes sitting in front of them. Now, if you look at these cupcakes, they both look identical. So, I have a little test for you all. The first question that I want you to answer for me about the cupcakes is, one of these cupcakes were made with brand name self-rising flour. The other cupcake, it was made with great value flour. Can anyone tell me which one of these cupcakes is made with the name brand flour? Which one is made with the off-brand flour? Okay, it's kind of hard to tell. I know. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, for the icing. In the icing, we use all name brand ingredients for one. We use the Domino confectioner sugar. We use the Land O'Lakes butter. And on the other one, we use Great Value confectioner sugar. And we use Great Value butter. Can anyone tell me just by looking at these cupcakes, which one of these do you think were made with the name brand ingredients? Which one was made with the off-brand ingredients? Okay. Still kind of hard to tell. Okay. Now, one of these cupcakes have store-bought pecans that we bought. They're already chopped. And then the other pecans are pecans that we bought from a very quality vendor. One where he shells the pecans. I mean, the pecans are just beautiful. Can you tell which one, by looking at these two cupcakes, can you tell me which one came from my quality vendor and which one came from the store? Okay, and again, it's hard because both of these cupcakes, just by looking at them, both of them look identical to each other. Well, when we're talking about promoting rural education, this is the kind of stuff we want to see. So I want you to think about a child who gets his education in an urban rural district, and I want you to think about a child who receives his education in a rural district. Well, and this is the kind of terminology, the kind of thinking that I want us to kind of keep in mind, regardless of what's lacking, what's more expensive, what's less expensive, regardless of what's lacking in these two cupcakes. At the end, it's the same product. You can't tell the difference of which cupcake is cheaper, which one costs more. Well, this is what student success should look like in rural districts, regardless of the lack of resources, regardless of the lack of qualified teachers, regardless of anything that would kind of hinder a child's education. We have to kind of bridge the gap so that at the end, that the results are the same. They can compete with other children on other levels who came from urban districts who may have had everything, and they're coming from a place where they didn't hardly have anything. This is what we mean when we're talking about promoting rural education. It's all about student success rate. Where you come from and what you've lacked in the past, your circumstances, should have no bearing on a child's on a child's academic success, academic achievement. It should have no bearings on it. And that's kind of the concept of these cupcakes. You know, you can't really tell which one is cheaper. You can't tell which one has the better ingredients. You can't tell. You just can't tell. And this is what our students in the rural area. This is how student success. This is what student success should look like. We shouldn't be able to tell that students been through so many hard times because we have to figure out a way to bridge the gap. It might be several things that they don't have, several things that that we can offer them, but we as stakeholders, as parents, as educators, we have to find a way to bridge the gap. So today, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about what we're going to be focused on is student achievement. And what we're going to do is we want to use the strengths of the rural community in order to increase student achievement, student success rates. So the first thing I want to do is I want to give a little background on living in a rural community. What does it mean to live in a rural community? Now, what does it mean if someone says you're from a rural area? If you looked online and you tried to research the word, that particular word, you would not find a definite answer to that question because the authors, a lot of people say that rural is how you defined it. What do you think it is? Also, it could be positive or negative. For a lot of people who are not from a rural area, most of the time, if you say you're from a rural part of the state, people think that you're poor, you don't have any resources, they think you lack class, they just think you're, I guess, some type of just low class person. They think you don't graduate. They think you don't have any intellect. You don't know any large words. You didn't attend school. But if you ask me, rural has a totally different meaning. You think about the word rural. All I can think about is family. You know, family is very big in rural areas. Religion. Also think about opportunities. You have close knit community. Just southern hospitality, and then we're talking about rural as it defines school. You have low class sizes. So that means teachers can work more one-on-one with kids who actually need it. It's so many things. And I know also when we're talking about school in rural area, those administrators, that staff, they know all those kids by name because you don't have those big, large class sizes. It's hard to define rural. um, I would say it is used to describe a small place in the world where resources are limited, but opportunities are limitless. Again, rural areas used to describe a small place in the world where resources are limited, but opportunities again are limitless. In rural communities, like we said earlier, when we were talking about the definition of a rural community, you don't have many resources. And when we talk about resources, we're talking about funding. You don't have much funding, to do anything with. So, in order for our students to be successful in rural education, we have to capitalize on the strength of our rural communities. Now we know that in a rural community, our schools serve in many different capacities. Kids are not just learning there. They learn a lot of things at school. They learn a lot of good things at school. The school is actually the center of social, recreational, and cultural life in the community. So it's a lot of things going on at the school besides education. It's kind of where our kids become more well-rounded, if you could say that. Now, most rural schools and the communities they serve are not broken. A lot of people think that rural schools are just, you can see now why they're trying to have all of the charter schools coming in. They think that our schools are broken and they think that they can't serve the needs of our students. These communities are often home to deep wells of social capital, tradition, and values that educators can build upon to improve schools. And it says, in fact, data for rural communities shows higher levels of social cohesion, stronger beliefs in community safety, and stronger opinions that people in the community look out for each other. So, to improve student achievement in rural school districts, there are three things that we must do. And again, we're capitalizing on the strengths of our community. We must increase student participation in educational support programs offered by the district, and these are programs such as the School Meals Program. Also, we must promote career technical education opportunities, and these are programs like your welding, your certified nursing assistant courses that's offered in school. And also, we must continue to recruit qualified teachers in core subject areas in all other areas. Now, when we talk about promoting the school meals program, now we know that in rural communities, poverty is very high. It's at an all-time high in rural communities. And sometimes living in poverty affects a child's educational achievement. It affects their academic achievements. It affects their success rate. When kids are hungry, it's just been proven that you can't learn. When you're hungry, you can't learn. When you're hungry, you can't score high on those tests. You can't get to school on time because you're hungry. You can't concentrate. You can't stay focused. So promoting the school meals program is one way that we can increase student achievement. School meal programs often in school districts are very valuable educational support tools that can be used to improve student success in rural districts. Now, according to the Food Research and Action Center, Studies conclude that students with proper nutrition increase their math and reading scores as well as improve their speed in memory and cognitive tests. Also, common students who eat at school closer to class and test taking time perform better on standardized tests than those who skip breakfast. Likewise, studies show that students with poor nutrition often exhibit sleepiness, inactivity, and forgetfulness while at school. Schools bear the responsibility of making sure that a child's total educational experience is at the proper level. And that means actually going to class. And that also means having access to the proper nutrition. It has been proven that students who eat breakfast and lunch at school increase their scholastic performance tremendously. Meals and snacks provided at school represent a significant portion of many students' nutritional requirements. Ensuring that children receive proper nutrition intake during the school day will increase their academic performance, thus increasing student achievement and success. And the good thing about that right now was that because of the pandemic, it will have all these waivers. A lot of kids who weren't able to eat free are actually able to eat free now. So you got breakfast and lunch. And I know in the school district that I worked in, we were also serving snack at one point, and we were also doing a supper meal. So kids were getting 3 meals and a snack a day before they left school. And so if you have a child that's suffering from poverty, that's suffering, they don't have any food at home, the parents may not be working, may have lost their job. Well, one thing that we can assure them is that you'll get your nutritional needs will be met. The next thing that we want to talk about when we're talking about capitalizing on the strengths of rural communities is increasing student participation in CTE programs. And career tech ed programs are those programs like you may have an instructor teaching welding. You may have an instructor that's doing a certified nursing assistant course. And then at the end of that course, those students can take a test and get certified. Well, increasing student participation in CTE program, it almost kind of assures that our students will be ready for the workforce. And we know that everybody is not made for college. Everybody's not meant to go to college. So for those students who may want to learn a trade and may want to join the workforce right after graduating from high school, this is a great way for them to get those great job skills, those great certifications. A quote says, "Today's economy demands a better educated workforce than ever before, and jobs in this new economy require more complex knowledge and skills than the jobs of the past. Career and technical education is an educational strategy for providing young people with the academic, technical, and employability skills and knowledge to pursue post-secondary training or higher education in a career field prepared for ongoing learning. Students have the opportunity to gain job skills while completing the requirements for their secondary education. This allows students who may not want to attend college the opportunity to gain valuable job skills needed to gain employment with top companies." So again, increasing student participation in CTE programs, and even if you're at a rural school district that you don't have your career tech ed program very well developed at this time, this is a great time to start developing that program and knowing more certification classes so that our kids, once they graduate from high school and they enter the workforce, they'll be ready to compete with those people who may have had more training than them, may have had more resources with them. They'll be able to compete at all levels. The next thing we want to talk about when we're talking about capitalizing on the strengths of the rural community, I graduated from a high school in the rural community, and I can say that my teachers were the best qualified teachers, and there's a stigma about a rural community school or public schools in general. And like I said, that's why they're trying to bring in all these charter schools, that they think that the public schools are not capable of educating our children. But on the public school has some of the best educators that you could ever find. I remember skills right now. Um, in these doctoral classes, some of the skills that my high school English teacher taught me, I'm remembering those when I'm writing my paper. Some of the skills that my high school math teacher taught me, I know I'm going to be able to use some of those skills when I get ready to take my statistics class. A lot of things that our high school teachers taught us, in the public school system, in the rural school system that I was in, it has stuck with me through all these years. And I do want to point out that one thing about teachers in rural education, they know that a child who's graduating from, who's getting a rural education, who's in rural education, you have to teach more than just education. You have to teach life skills. It's so much more. They're more concerned about you being a well-rounded student. They want you to be educated, but they want you to be a well-rounded, educated student. And that's one thing about recruiting the right kind of teachers. When you're talking about teaching in a rural area, with kids, teaching kids in a rural area, you have to recruit the right kind of teachers. And during this pandemic, it's been very hard for everyone to recruit qualified teachers. Recruiting qualified teachers has become a difficult process due to the COVID pandemic. Before the pandemic, it was already difficult to recruit qualified math and science teachers in rural areas. After the pandemic, it has become difficult to recruit qualified teachers for almost every subject. So, for almost every subject now, you can't find teachers. Now, the State Department, to alleviate that stress, has now started the Teams program or Teams grant, and this is where teachers in math and science who have that certification in math and science, they can make more money, and this is kind of how we can attract some more of those qualified teachers into rural areas, is by offering them that extra money to come and teach our kids so they can have a quality education. Um, Research has found consistent staffing problems in rural schools, including a persistent gap between the qualifications of teachers in rural and urban schools. Rural communities face limitations in recruiting and retaining high quality teachers for reasons such as funding issues. Money is always an issue in rural areas, limited teacher supply, lack of rigorous training and certification options, and geographic and social isolation. A lot of times, we know funding is a big issue, but a lot of times, depending on where that school is located, if teachers, especially if teachers have a family of their own, if they don't see a lot of activities that their families can engage in on the weekend, there are not a lot of extracurricular activities after school, and that particular town might be a place where teachers are not attracted to, because it's not offering them much for their personal life, home life. State level policies tend to be based on financial incentives such as stipends or loan forgiveness programs to encourage teachers to work in hard to staff geographic regions and subject areas. So that's another thing. They're doing a lot of loan forgiveness now. And so we're hoping that with the Teens program, that grant, and we're hoping that with all of the loan forgiveness becoming less restrictive, that teachers will just start coming back into the rural areas and actually giving our kids, so that we can give our kids a quality education. Now, after talking about that, our next steps, if you don't have any questions, if I have any questions, you can stop me and I can answer them. Now, our next steps are going to be to collaborate with local school districts to start implementing some of the strategies for change. if you have a rural area in your district, and I know, a lot of us have children, you have children that are attending schools in rural areas, we can go to some of those school districts, some of those administrators, some of those school officers, district officers, and talk to them about some of the changes that we want to see happen. And of course, we know in the rural area that's not going to happen overnight. So it's probably several meetings, several PTA meetings, several parent meetings. It'll be several meetings between parents and administrators to kind of figure out, well, what can we do on this level, on a parental level, to help? What can administrators do on their level to help our students increase their student success rates? Um, it has been a pleasure to speak with you guys about this because it's something that's very near and dear to me. I grew up in a rural area, and what people don't understand is that the school systems are great, the teachers are great, but there's so much other stuff that surrounds. It's so much other stuff that kids have to deal with that's not even related to getting an education, that can kind of overwhelm you. It kind of just completely throw you off track. You have peer pressure, you have problems at home. It's so much stuff that could happen that could throw our kids off track. So when we're talking about, education, we can take it a step further and, look at what else affects children in rural areas. It's not once today we've talked about, just education in general inside the schools, what are affecting our kids. But when they leave school, they're outside of school. What other things can we do to make sure that they stay on track, to make sure they stay motivated, to make sure that they achieve greatness? And these are the questions that we need to be asking each other. These are the hard questions that we have to sit down and we have to brainstorm to try to figure out what can we do to make sure that our kids get what they need. It has been awesome to speak with you guys about this. My name is Donique Washington again, and it has been great to speak with you all. I know it's getting close to lunchtime. Everybody's getting a little anxious, but I just want everybody to think about those next steps that we talked about. How can we collaborate with school officials, administrators, on increasing student achievement? How can we increase student success rate in our communities? If you have any questions, does anyone have any questions at this time? If no one has a question right now, that's fine. If you have a question and you want to contact me, I have my email here. That's WashingtonD5809@uwa.edu. And also my phone number is there, 334-555-5555. Again, I want to thank you all for bearing with me during this right before lunch, during this hour before lunch. It has been great to talk with you, and I hope to talk with you all again to discuss more solutions for these problems in the future. Thank you, and have an awesome day.